Welcome to the Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the Complex Trauma Training Center. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. Licensed mental health professionals, we warmly invite you to join our summer 2026 NARM therapist training, a hybrid online or in-person immersion into the transformative power of the NeuroAffective Relational Model. This advanced clinical training is designed specifically for those seeking to deepen their expertise in healing complex trauma while offering the flexibility of online learning combined with the depth of in-person experiential work. From January to August 2026, you will be part of a supportive learning community that meets both virtually or in person in Salt Lake City, integrating mindfulness and clinical expertise. Through 4 comprehensive modules, you'll gain specialized trauma-informed knowledge and skills to confidently and compassionately address the impact of adverse childhood experiences and complex trauma. Together, we'll explore how to support the resolution of attachment, developmental, relational, cultural, and intergenerational trauma using a neurobiologically informed approach that promotes post-traumatic growth. Embodying both professional and personal growth, you'll become a catalyst for transformation in your practice and community. Enrollment is now open for licensed psychotherapists, counselors, social workers, psychologists, and other mental health professionals, as well as graduate trainees and interns working toward licensure. Visit ComplexTraumaTrainingCenter.com to learn more and secure your spot in this hybrid online and in-person training experience in Salt Lake City, Utah. And now for our interview. My guest today is Elizabeth Remic Simonian, an integrative and somatic therapist based in Rotterdam. Born to Swedish and Armenian roots in Cyprus and shaped by years moving between cultures, Elizabeth originally trained as a jazz vocalist before turning toward trauma healing. She is a somatic experiencing practitioner, soma embodiment practitioner, and has completed her NARM Master Therapist certificate alongside advanced training in somatic sexuality healing. Her work weaves depth, embodiment, and humanity, inviting clients to meet the full, beautiful complexity of being human. Please enjoy my conversation with Elizabeth Remic Simonian. All right, today I am joined by Elizabeth Remic Simonian, and so happy to have you joining us. Elizabeth, I've been looking forward to our conversation for months now.
Thanks, me too.
Yeah. I'd love to start by asking, what you would like our listeners to come away with from our conversation today.
I think that would be about what coming in contact with NARM has meant to me. I think that would be something I would like to share and have people take away from today.
Yeah, I'm already feeling touched. We know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been able to be in contact. And like I said, I've been looking forward to hearing more about your journey and how NARM has impacted you. So thank you. I'm excited. So if you could share with our listeners and me a little bit more about you and where you are in the world and the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm based in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. I've been living here since 2003. I was meant to come here for a year. Obviously, that turned out differently. And originally, my mother is Swedish. She's actually adopted, so she's Swedish-Norwegian. And my father is Armenian, born in Iraq. And they met each other on the island of Cyprus, which is where I'm born. And basically, I spent my life going back and forth between Sweden and Cyprus. And then I moved here. And originally I came here and I was studying music and I was only doing music and singing. And then I changed course and I studied to become a therapist and with a deep love for trauma, any kind of trauma. And so that's what I do now in private practice.
Okay, beautiful. And you said, I studied music? And then I made a switch.
Yeah, that was.
And there's a huge something there.
There's a huge something there.
That I'm so curious. Yeah. But we can get into that. But So you made this switch, and you're doing this work. What I don't know overseas what what sort of licensure or what that looks like, or how you even, what the education is like to get into that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. They have here especially in the Netherlands, is that you can fall under like psychologist or psychiatry, and you can also fall like in the alternative, like integrative therapist, and you have to study and still be part of a system and can be part of the insurance and a association, but you go a different route than doing the whole psychology study. And which is something, after talking to a certain amount of psychologists that I know, I wasn't very inspired to do that. I wanted to just get to for me, the good stuff. So I did like a basic integrative therapist training, which is more an all-around kind of training. And then I went into deep dive into the somatic experiencing and the NARM and lots of other stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you could kind of help me, at what point in your life did you start going on this route? Because you said I was studying music.
Yeah.
And then?
Well, it's funny. I was studying music, but I never actually was a very good music student. I was always busy I was in therapy myself. I had so much to work through. I was looking around at my fellow students studying music, and I was like, wow, we all have a lot of stuff to work through. And so I was always just very busy with personal growth and looking inwards. And I was much more busy with that than doing the music that I should have been practicing when you study music. And then I noticed also, like, while teaching, I would be less interested in just the technical aspect of why something wasn't working for somebody. And there would be like all these intuitive things, or like these empathic feelings that would come up. And I would be like, there's so much more under, like, why your voice is tightening here. But it's not my domain. It's not my place. It's not why you're coming to me. And I think slowly, I just kind of had a sense like, I want more, and I want more depth. I've always wanted more depth, right? Since I was a very little girl, was kind of like, oh, all the depth. And then finally, I kind of allowed myself to go into depth.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's so rich just to hear you acknowledge, like, there's so much more to why your voice is tightening, why you're not hitting that note, why you can't make that run or whatever. And you also had this sense that, like, but that's not why you're coming to me. And so you wanted to build a bridge, it sounds like. So where would you like to go from here? Because I have so much I want to hear about, and I know we only have so much time. But yeah, what feels right to you?
Well, I think the moment that I thought I'm going to change course and become a therapist, that feels like an important moment. And I was working, and I was a mother of 2 young children already, which is not usually the time you go like, oh, let me, start anew or invest in myself. But my husband and I, we had this rare occasion of getting a few hours to ourselves. And we were in Slovenia, where he's from. And I don't know if you know anything about Slovenia, but it has this beautiful mountain scenery, and it has just this beautiful nature. And we went for a walk alone. It was a very rare occasion. And things just got really, literally very spacious and very quiet. And I kind of tuned into myself, and I just kind of said hi to my heart. And then all of a sudden, just very much out of the blue, I just had this really, really strong kind of, I don't want to sound too hallelujah, but it was a bit of a calling, like on the inside, like, therapist. I really want to change this and really work as a therapist, like not undercover therapist, not, semi-quasi for myself, but I want to do it. And that's the moment that it kind of came to me. And then I turned to my husband and I said, honey, I'm thinking this and this. And he just went, of course, it's like the most natural thing in the world. Do it.
Oh, I'm feeling so touched right now. What a sweet moment. And thank you for sharing that. Because I imagine that's a really tender, it feels sacred to me.
That's why I wanted to, that's why I wanted to bring it in, because it did feel like a really, sacred, important moment. And then so many things needed to happen to make it possible. And I felt so supported on like every layer of my existence. Just, it kind of, I worked for it, but it kind of just happened. And it went so smooth, and my whole life started to make sense. It felt like, coming home pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've transitioned. I've heard your voice, your singing voice. So I know as a musician, there's so much there too. And I just love that you're bringing in this richness, this heartfulness of your experience into your music. So I would love to hear how you're doing that, because you're doing both. What I know of you is that you're doing both. So yeah.
But just by the way, you're a musician as well, right? Originally. Or
I have some background, yeah.
Right?
Some, yeah.
I was very curious about that. Maybe we can, but
yeah, I'd love to hear more.
I had completed, I hadn't had time to do a lot of music because there was a lot going on and a lot to study and arrange and time. But then I had completed the OBT with Stephanie. It was my first contact with NARM, and I was so inspired by the material. I was so blown away by never having been kind of shown or taught just how deep our strategies go and how it shapes us. NARM opened a whole new world to me in that sense. And I wrote a few songs like coming from that. And that was very new because that was the first time the two worlds merged in that way. And I had shared it. With the NARM faculty and some of you, because I was very grateful for the material and for the fact that it could come together. And I'm hoping actually to explore that more in the future as well when there's a bit more time. I'm feeling quite inspired now after the levels 3 as well. So there's some, I think, music in the making there as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you did the NARM basics training, and then you went into the therapist training, and then you just completed the master therapist training. Yeah. Okay. And now you're really feeling all those things converging.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt very special to do it online and with Brad and Marsha and Stephanie, because you can do it here in Europe as well. You can do the training here. And people found it a bit odd why I would do it online and in the States, because it's crazy hours, and why don't you just do it here? And it was a little bit like when I was walking in Slovenia. It was the same here. I was like, I need to do NARM, and I'm going to do it with these people online. I didn't understand exactly why, but it felt very important to me, even if it was less convenient. And I'm just so happy I did. Yeah. It's meant a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit more about, because you've said already you really are interested in helping folks work through their trauma. and you were drawn to NARM. I'd love to hear actually what brought you to NARM. How did you find NARM? And
yeah. It was, so it wasn't another study, it was another modality, and there was a demo being given. And there was just something in the way the teacher who was giving the demo was meeting the client. And I was really fascinated, and it felt different. And there was something very, very subtle about it. There was just something in the way she respected the space that was needed. There was something in the level of consent that was involved. And I said to somebody like, wow, this is amazing. And then she said, yeah, that's NARM. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to do some sessions of my own within NARM. And I had been in a lot of therapy, but nobody had ever started a session with asking me what I would like. And one of my strategies was being great at giving people what they wanted. So I wanted to be a perfectly good, easy client, and I knew how to navigate that. But all of a sudden, I was the one getting to say what I wanted for myself, and then it just changed. I was like, oh, okay, this is very new. And I just felt I wanted to understand it better. And I felt that when someone comes in like with such tender, painful material as developmental and attachment trauma, I want to know how to meet that person. And I remember in one of the studies, there was this woman that I didn't feel a very strong connection to, and she was saying to us, when your client's there and then you feel stuck and you just go, what shall I do? And then you have this little box of interventions, and then you just go and look in your box of interventions, like, what can I do? What do I need to do to fix this or help someone get out of it? And everything in my body just went, no, that doesn't feel right. And then I entered NARM, and then that's what felt like coming home and being like, yes, this resonates. Yes, this is more the direction I want to grow in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're sharing. It's like there's something I want to name in the presence that you're bringing, even just here in this conversation. There's a richness. There's like a, there's a depth to it. I don't know another word for it, and I don't know how listeners are experiencing our conversation, but there's something that you're bringing, and I wonder if I'm resonating with what you were feeling in that moment of the NARM, that there's something deeper here.
I am nodding big time. Yeah. I think that's what, I can imagine that's what you're resonating with. Yeah.
So you experienced that moment in that you said it was another training, but the practitioner, the therapist was integrating NARM in some way that you were picking up on. Mm-hmm. So you started working with your own therapist. Mm-hmm. And then from there, is that when you entered the NARM basics
then
training?
I was like, okay. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then it was nothing of what I thought, because I thought I'm going to go in and then I'm going to get all these insights and tools and ways to to work with the other person, and all the focus would be on the other person. Because I said something I and many therapists and people who I think get interested in NARM, or working in a helping profession, that's what we're good at. And then all of a sudden, it was just all about, well, what's happening with you? Just the level of curiosity about efforting. I was like, yes, is there any other way? So it was very different. It was actually much more than I had hoped for. That's what it turned out to be. And I know I can sound a little bit hallelujah when I talk about it. So I notice I want to be careful with that. But for me, it is and has been so deep, so important, so life-changing. And I have so much love for this work. It is just something really important that I want to name.
So you were trained initially with the NARM basics training. You went into the therapist training, and that deepened, I imagine, just what you're naming, this focus on what's your internal happenings, what's going on for you. I'm curious, I don't know how long you've been practicing, but I'm curious what that shifted for you in your work, because you work with clients that are navigating trauma.
Oh, what didn't it shift? How long do we have? The efforting was a huge shift. And then really understanding even better that if I'm efforting, the connection isn't there in the same way. And if the connection isn't there, then what are we doing? Because then if the interpersonal falls away and the connection falls away, then, I mean, isn't that what most people have been lacking and are hoping to find? So that was a big thing for me. And also just realizing that my presence and the way I show up will really influence how the other person can allow themselves to be present and how much they will show up. So like I can say to you like, okay, I'll just keep myself out of it, but why don't you come and show up all vulnerable and superhuman, Emily? That doesn't work. And so that also was very confronting because that was one of my biggest strategies. And so authenticity was a big lesson for me in NARM as well. Like a deeper understanding of it. Because I never saw myself as unauthentic because I was like, well, the love I bring in and the care I bring in is very real and I'm here for you. And the fact that I've kind of taken myself out of the equation or like left myself kind of somewhere behind there, I thought that's not inauthentic. But in NARM, I learned that leaving yourself out or, treating yourself as an object is not really necessarily what invites authentic connection. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
So the folks that you're working with, I don't know if there's one sort of realm that you're dwelling in terms of, the populations that you work with, or who are you working with? Can I ask that question?
Yeah, I work with adults, and within that there's quite a wide scope. I do tend to work a lot with sexual abuse and sexuality trauma survivors. That's something I also, it sounds strange when I say that, but I really enjoy. I enjoy that. Kind of supporting someone to re-inhabit their body and moving out of shame, claiming their own selves. And like on a micro level, I feel like that's what I can do for this world, like supporting people to reclaim themselves, like one person at a time. So that feels important to me. But it's actually quite wide, the variety of people I work with. Yeah.
I love that you named, it's funny, I think, that sometimes it's taboo to sort of admit, who we enjoy work, because it's painful what they're going through. Yeah. Obviously, but how beautiful that you can name, I so enjoy showing up in this way with these folks in what they're navigating. And That's really beautiful. So I appreciate you naming that. Yeah. So from here, I'm curious what feels like maybe the territory you'd want to, explore and share with us. There's so much here. I feel like I want to name. There's a part of me that I really just want to sit with you. I have this impulse. I'm like, I don't even know that I need to ask questions. I just want to be with Elizabeth. So I'm like naming that because it feels a little different for me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm feeling that as well. And I remember because I had you as a TA in one of the groups, and I just really enjoyed your presence, and I really enjoyed hearing your voice. And so I remember that I was thinking, oh, it's such a melodic voice, and I wonder if you do anything with music. And then I realized that you do the podcast. So I spent so much time listening to the podcast, really enjoying your presence, your voice, the questions. So it's super fun for me to sit here with you and do this.
What's so interesting to me is I was having such a parallel process. I so enjoy your voice. And and then I found out at the end, I think it was at the end, the last module, that you kind of let us know that you're a vocalist. And I went and I found your music and I was listening, sort of fangirling on this side. So I love that we have that connection. Yeah. It's so touching to me. Yeah.
And I don't know if this is like appropriate or the right time, but it was a genuine curiosity I had of your connection to music. I don't know if that's something I can ask.
Oh, sure. I don't have a whole lot of training. I have a lot of love. And I sang for a while in a band, and nothing really current. But
that makes sense.
So that's, I think, why when I found out you were a vocalist, I had to go listen. I had to go find. I think you did share with. I wasn't just stalking you, but I went and found more of your music because you have a presence, and I want to bring this back into the work that you're doing with clients, because I think there is something. As a musician, you were picking up on that there's so much more to our physicality, how we bring ourselves into the world, how we carry our bodies, how we use our voices, that there's so much of our history that we sometimes bring in our strategies. And it's so beautiful that you recognize that, like, there's more to why you're tightening your voice. There's more happening for you physiologically, that there's something underneath that. And so I wonder, if that's something you're still maybe tracking with clients when you're working with them.
Yeah, and to connect it even more to music. So I was teaching, like at the conservatory here, you have also the high school for music. And then in the last 2 years, you kind of help students prepare for their exams and their auditions if they're going to go to the conservatory. And I was teaching there. And I recently stopped after 10 years. But what I was noticing there was the more I was working with NARM, and I was looking at how to bring NARM into, when I say NARM, because NARM is not just something you put on. NARM is for me like, it's a way of life, right? It's not just something you throw at somebody. So I was looking at how do I bring that in, because it's not a therapeutic setting, but how do I bring it into the teaching, like into the connection and into the relationship, and me being aware of any, enactments, because that also takes place a lot between teachers and students. I would love to for NARM to come more into the teaching. Maybe that's something for the future. But what I was noticing is the more I was doing NARM and bringing that into teaching, the more students were getting comfortable, and the more open they were, and the more they were daring to, like, to break down in lessons and to find strength. And there was just so much more possibilities within the lessons, and I was really, really enjoying that. And it was funny because more and more students kept asking to, this sounds silly, but I was very aware of, they kept asking to be transferred to come and have lessons with me. And I was thinking, isn't that funny? Because I'm I'm currently not busy. I'm not doing a lot of performances. I'm currently not investing in like more technique or stuff for myself. I'm busy with something completely different. And this is translating into music. So I found that quite, yeah, I found that.
I'm getting chills right now.
Yeah.
I just love hearing this. And it makes so much sense how that's translating. And I love that you named NARM isn't just, it's not tips and tricks and techniques and interventions. That's not what it is. It's a way of being. And of course that translates into any, domain of our life where we're working with people. So you were already integrating all of that way of being into, of course, who you are as a teacher. I just get so excited hearing that. And I'm sure there's lots of listeners who maybe they're not therapists. Maybe they're just interested in trauma healing.
Yeah. And that's why I was thinking, like, how important would it be also for teachers to get the chance to create more awareness of what am I bringing in? Like, what am I bringing in into my lessons? Because there's a lot of enactments going on. And I'm sure that my education would have been quite different if I would have been aware of that or had a teacher who was aware of that. Yeah, there were things that would happen, like whenever I would have to do an exam, I would kind of lose my voice or my voice would shut down and I would be awful, but then put me on a stage to perform, that was really different. So if that had been met with like a bit of more knowledge and sensitivity and then that could have been a really good learning opportunity and that could have developed in a different way. So I noticed that I'm a little bit curious about, is that something you can bring into teachers and, universities, and especially within the arts, you see a lot of need for that, I think. She said diplomatically.
Yeah, I just was going to say that's a diplomatic way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much, with competition and kind of that vibe that can come that really shuts down a lot of us deep feelers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that you're naming that. But it's impacted my life so deeply, and you're naming these ways that so many humans on the planet could really use this sort of education of the heart, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I mean, we can afford to bring in, I think if we look at the world and what it looks like right now, and if you look at how slow we are at learning as a human race, we can bring in more heart. We can afford to bring in more heart. We don't have to be afraid that there will be too much heart. So, yeah. Be it as in my case, a mother, a wife, a friend, a therapist, a human. It was interesting because last weekend I went to listen to a friend of mine who I also used to teach in a choir. And he was on stage with 400 people singing. And then there were like 600 people in the audience. And it was such a beautiful, lovely atmosphere. And one of my old colleagues was singing and directing and shining, and just, it was so fun to watch. And I was noticing from where I was sitting, how much I was enjoying it. And at the same time, for me personally, how happy I am to still do music and perform when I can, but to not have it as the main thing I do in life. Because I think in my case, to be involved in something where you kind of have to show yourself all the time, prove yourself, where there's a lot of competition, I think it brings out the worst in me. I think it just doubles and triples up on my strategies. It felt just really good in that moment to realize, like, I love music and I love to do it, but I also love that it's not the main thing in my life anymore going forward.
I resonate so much with that. And I'm just holding the value of, just honoring where we're at as humans and acknowledging What do I actually want for myself? That question that we're always asking.
Yeah.
And do I want to be in the music and enjoy it from the, from the appreciator, observer, audience side? And maybe there's times where it feels right. And it sounds like you do still get up on stage at times, but it's not the main thing. How important that is.
Yeah. And also the amount of joy I have. So on the one hand, because I don't have time to train and to practice and to be busy like I did, you would think that the voice as an instrument and the musicality goes, like the level drops a bit, which I'm sure it does on some level. But on the other hand, I cannot tell you what a difference it makes to sing with more embodiment and less shame and more authenticity and the heartfulness and singing from a place of, belonging within yourself. I cannot tell you like the difference that makes in the experience of singing. And I have never loved to sing more than I do now.
I'm so glad you said that. That's actually something I was curious about that I wanted to ask you. This piece around when there's not as much technical, I don't know, perfection that, as artists we can sometimes aim for in that way, but that you're bringing so much heartfulness to the performance that can't, like, as someone sitting and listening, I can't help but feel that quality in the music when that's being brought in. And then there's times when I think we've probably all heard at some point a vocally, technically perfect vocal run or something, but there's not the heart there. And, there's no judgment there. I'm just sitting with what the difference feels like.
Yeah. And I think exactly. It's the difference. Like if somebody touches your heart and can bring you to tears, or the difference if you're like going through your grocery list while somebody's singing, or you're, like, it's a bit, and that's a bit with everything. Yeah. It can also be like somebody teaching or lecturing, like, you can say the right things, but kind of lose me because the heart isn't there. And then you can just sit at the edge of your chair in the middle of the night listening to very, very interesting teaching material because, there's a heart involved there, and then you're not falling asleep. Your focus is there. So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that in. Well, with the time we have left, I'm so curious if there's anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners, with me.
I'm somebody who can talk a lot and for a long time. So
I love
that. I'm thinking, by the way, this feels so nice. Like I could do this really often with you, like just get a coffee or a tea together and sit and hang and talk. Yeah.
Same. Thank you.
What I really appreciate, what I wanted to bring in, what I'm really like still kind of letting sink in and deepening is, like we talked about in the beginning, that I like the fact that the depth is never ending. And I also like the part of how bringing in humanity and bringing in yourself, on the one hand, that it's so personal, and at the same time, it's not all about you. And that's where things get really interesting for me in life. And that's where I'm at right now, I think, after the Masters, just really in that deeply, deeply human presence, how that leads to that transpersonal, because it's not all about you. I think I would say that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm again really grateful to NARM for.
Yeah, and even just as you name that, I feel my shoulders drop. It's something that could bear repeating many, many times. We could all hear it many times, and there's so many layers there. Yeah, and you have me kind of reflecting on my own process, and probably every human's process on the planet, of how many layers, it's like peeling an onion. And there's one more layer, and I'm getting curious about that layer. And as I get curious about that layer, another layer reveals itself. You know, it's beautiful. And I think at one point in my life, I related to that as like, it's exhausting. Like, oh no, this never ends. You know, I've always got to be doing this work. But now I relate to it in a way of like, it's so exciting that there's always something new and fresh to hold and to sit with. And you have such a beautiful energy. It feels so soft to kind of lean into that idea of even just what you named about the voice, like how curious we can be about our own experience and how we exist, inhabit our bodies and what's there. Why do I tighten my voice when, you know, in whatever situation? Mm-hmm. And I love that you're bringing that work to your clients, to the world.
Thanks. And I could relate to laugh when you just said, like, there was a point where you're like, oh, again, like, do I have to?
Yeah.
I recognize, I recognize that as well. And at the same time, it's like, I think this would be my dream as a little girl, like that you're allowed to go into depth and there's like no end to it.
Well, I'm aware of the time and I want to just check in with you. I know I already asked, is there anything else, but does that feel like a good place to land?
Yeah, it does.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your heart. I mean, there is part of me, and we can edit this out if it doesn't make sense. There's a part of me maybe that's curious to ask if you have any client work that you could bring in. I mean, obviously you want to honor, you know, confidentiality and whatnot, but I wonder if there's anything in your experience working with folks that that you'd want to share with us. And if not, that's okay.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot. There was one thing I was thinking about is when we talk about humanity and daring to be authentic. And I had this client of mine, there was a session not too long ago where she started asking me questions back. She said, "Can I ask you something?" And first I was like, oh. And it took me a moment to kind of reorient because I'm not used to that, right, in the session. And it came from a very, I mean, we went on looking at it a bit together, like what her interest was. And it came from this genuine place that she said, I think it would help me to know. And there was this moment where I had this chance to kind of embody all these things we're talking about, because there was a part of me that went like, oh, well, is that professional? And, you know, what should I bring in, what not to bring in? But it was also an invitation to stay within that humanity, and that in that moment, this client just needed to hear from another human, like, how's that for you? And then I kept it short and I said, you know, maybe we can talk about more things another time because this is about you. And then I said, I do have an interview soon. And if that's going to be aired, then I'm going to send that to you. And I was referring to this. And I said, and then you can hear more about me. And so that was this kind of vulnerable human moment with NARM at its, I think, at its best, or how I would say that. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that. There's so much there with our clients because as you just named, like ultimately, they don't want an expert. They don't want advice. They really just need and want a holding and a presence and another human with them in that. And it sounds to me like that was what was needed in that moment. And the fact that you felt like you could really bring yourself into the room with that presence is so touching to me.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Well, I wonder where, you know, if folks are curious about your music or the work that you're doing, where can folks find you if they're wanting to find you?
Yeah, if you want to listen. I mean, my name, just Elizabeth Simonian, that's my site, my therapeutic site. But on the other hand, if you go to Apple Music or Spotify or YouTube, you know, when you type that in, you'll see some stuff come up there as well. music. Yeah.
And I love, if I can just name, when I went on that rabbit hole, finding your music. I mean, I felt like there was consent online. You did share the one or two pieces with us. So I was like, I think she knows. We're going to go search. But what I really love about your music is that you can tell there's like an eclectic influence. You've got these multiple cultures that are influencing your work, and it's so beautiful and unique. And of course, the sound of your voice is just so, it's beautiful. It's so moving to me. It moves something in my soul. So yeah, I hope listeners go and find you and find your music and give it a listen.
Well, I mean, thanks for this conversation. My heart's very happy with this time we spent together.
Yeah.
Felt a bit like a love fest.
It did, and I love that. And yeah, maybe we can do coffee on the internet sometime. Yeah. But I love that you're in our community, that you're in our space, in our world, and that you are sharing your work with all of us. So thank you for taking the time.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more information about our guest, check the show notes or visit us at complextraumatrainingcenter.com/transforming trauma. You can also connect with us in other ways. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As a mental health professional, your commitment to healing and growth inspires us. We at the Complex Trauma Training Center are committed to supporting you in your well-being and success. That's why we are honored to invite you to our Space Program 2026, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal levels. Running over 6 online sessions in 2026, this interactive experiential learning program is designed to support self-care and self-discovery for therapists exploring internally, relationally, and transpersonally. CTTC faculty will welcome you into a professional community of therapists that are seeking to create greater effectiveness and resilience in our professional lives. As CTTC faculty Brad Kammer says, the intent is that this program will help us not only become more effective therapists, but also love our work more. Please visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com and secure your spot in the 2026 Space Program. Thanks to Rig for producing and editing, to Tori Essex for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community and connection with you and changing the world by transforming trauma.